Hi, and welcome to the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center. Oh, we're both shaking out our feathers today. I'm Diana, and you are visiting our Raptor Center, which is, of course, a facility for wildlife rehabilitation, and we specialize in birds of prey, like handsome Peregrine Falcon Theo here. We help these guys in many ways through education and, of course, caring for them when they come in sick, injured, and orphaned. Well, Theo is joining me today. He, of course, is one of our resident raptors. That means he is a bird that has something usually physically wrong with them that prevents them from returning to the wild. And for Theo, he has an issue with a wing. Theo has been with us now for, gosh, 7, 8 years maybe. Something like that. I can't remember, and he's not telling me. So anyway, he's been with us a while. But he originally came in the autumn, several years ago, of course, and he was on his first migration. Peregrines throughout actually are found worldwide, and in North America they do make some movements north and south, or either interior to coastal areas to find food. So it depends on the peregrine and where they are, where they actually go for the winter. Some can stay year round if they're in the right place. So they do move around, but he was obviously moving through our region, had an accident over by Canyon City, and some people found him, called us. We sent out volunteers to recover him, brought him to the center, and Theo suffered a very serious fracture to a bone in his wing called the ulna. And actually, we have the same bone. It's a bone in our forearm. We have two. If you've ever felt your body, you probably have noticed that you have two bones in your forearm. The top one is called the radius, and it's a little bit smaller than the ulna bone, and it's what allows you to twist. So it's a pretty important bone, especially if you're a flying bird. You really need your ulna. Well, he shattered his ulna. He actually fractured it into about 5 pieces. And even though our veterinarian did a wonderful job of trying to reconstruct that bone, he had to do some complicated surgery, and he had to thread all the little bone fragments onto kind of a pin, they call it a steel pin, and try to line it all up and get it to heal. But with that type of extreme damage to a bone, there's no way that it would ever be strong enough to take the powers of flight. And in peregrines especially, that's really important, because these guys are just speed demons. Peregrines are built for high-speed flight, and diving is their specialty. So when he's out hunting, being a bird of prey, of course, he hunts a lot of different types of animals. Oh, thank you. Actually, that feels great. It's really hot and humid today in Colorado, so thank you, Theo, for the fan. I appreciate that. Anyhow, it did feel good. So anyhow, he would search for his prey, of course, with his eyes. Birds of prey, like many birds, have huge eyes and excellent eyesight. His are engineered for long distance vision to help him spot potential prey. And in the case of a peregrine, they're going to hunt for a variety of animals. Their specialty are birds. So he would look for anything from the size of a woodpecker all the way up, believe it or not, to something as large as a duck to hunt. So, and all birds in between that are welcome to be dinner for a peregrine. And they do hunt from either a high perch. If you want to find peregrines, usually you need to be in a canyon type area. They like the ledges of canyons, and also there's great air currents for them to move on, and a lot of other birds nesting, so there's always prey. Often there's a waterway if there's a canyon, so there's some waterfowl that they like to hunt. So they nest on ledges on cliffs. So he might be perched up high on the edge of a cliff, scanning with his eyes for food. He could be flying, maybe kind of flapping and soaring. He doesn't have really the wing design of a hawk or an eagle or a vulture for really long-term gliding or soaring, but he still could be aloft searching for prey and looking for it with those eyes. And of course, once he spots the prey, he needs to chase it, and that's where those wings come in. Falcons have a very long wing, and he's flapping. Let me see if I'll turn him this way. I'll kind of step out a little bit. You can see that he has kind of an interesting shape to his wing. He has a long, narrow wing. It kind of tapers, or it comes to a point at the end. So it starts wide by the body, and then it comes to a taper at the edges. And that's actually a wing for high-speed flight. If you've ever looked at airplanes, like if you go to the airport and there's all kinds of planes. There's little planes, big planes, and if you really look at the wings, depending on the job that particular plane does, how much load it has to carry, things like that, it has a little bit different shape to the wing. And they learned that from birds. Every bird has a little bit different wing design based on the type of flying that they have to do. So Theo, being a peregrine falcon, his wing is engineered for high maneuverability at high speed. So he has a tapered wing for that. So he can chase, he can flap his wings, certainly reach some pretty high speeds. 50 miles an hour is not hard for him to do in a full flapping flight. But what he's really cool at is doing these amazing dives, or stoops as they're called. So he's up above his prey. If he's flying or even on a cliff, he might spot, say, a pigeon, and he might see that pigeon below him, and when he sees it, he wants to get there as fast as he can, because his element of surprise is actually his speed. He's going to come in so fast and furious. Hey dude, there wasn't a pigeon. He's like, pigeon where? Anyway, he's going to come in so fast that by the time the pigeon actually sees him coming, he's probably going to be right on top of it. So he'll get into position, maybe hold for a second, hovering just for a moment, letting his little brain do the math, how fast, how far do I got to go? And then he'll actually head down and pull his wings in. Now he's going to pull them into certain angles at different phases of his stoop. You're going to see, if you get to watch them, especially if you get to see a stoop in slow motion, how they're constantly changing their wing pattern so they can control their speed and their descent as they chase the prey. So he's going to pull in his wings to a certain angle, and that's going to allow him, with aerodynamics, to go really fast. I mean, he's going to go faster just by diving in the shape of his body and how the air flows around him than just free falling. I think terminal velocity, it's called, I think it's, this is where I might be wrong. If I am, I'm sorry, correct me, but I think terminal velocity is like 135, 150 miles an hour, and I apologize if I don't have that quite right, but he actually can go even faster than that. So if you and I fall off an airplane, we're going to fall at roughly 135 miles an hour to the ground. Well, with the shape of his body and the structure of his feathers, all of that in his dive, he's got gravity helping him go faster, but also his shape and design actually can help him achieve much greater speeds in his stoop, and he's not flapping at all, but he is capable of reaching speeds of more than 200 miles an hour in his diver's stoop. And they have clocked peregrines, and I believe that someone told me not too long ago that they recently clocked a peregrine in a dive at something like 270 miles an hour. I can't imagine breathing at 200 miles an hour, much less stopping at that kind of speed. So he has to have some adaptations to deal with that speed on his face. And that's where his beak comes in, and his cere. That's the fleshy part around his beak. I'm going to bring him a little bit close because I want you to see, there goes, there we go. If you look, when he looks towards the camera, you can see on the top of his beak in that yellow spot there, there you go. You can see his nares, and that's where he's breathing. And if you look kind of closely as he's going around, he's a little camera shy, you'll see that in that nare, there's a structure in the middle of it. There you go. There's a nice shot of it. And that, there you go, relax, buddy. And that actually is a structure to help him slow the air from rushing into his body. And so he's got some adaptations to his nasal passages to reduce airflow as he's traveling and help him to breathe, because he doesn't want to put a lot of pressure on his lungs, because actually he could injure them if he's got too much air rushing through his face. It's like if you've ever been on a really windy day and the wind rushes across your nose and steals your breath for a second. Same thing going on for him, but it's going on all the time because he's always up in the air and in the wind. So he does have to have some adaptations or specialized tools in his nasal passages to adjust that airflow as it's rocketing in. So he's coming in 200 miles an hour onto that pigeon, and of course as he makes his final approach, he does have to slow him down. So you'll see that the wings will open out and just before he hits, and what that does is when the wings start to open out, what happens is it kind of rocks his head back a bit, and that gets it, because his head has been in perfect alignment to collide with the animal. He doesn't want to hit it head first, so the head has to come backwards, and in that little rock that his body makes, his head goes back, but now his feet kind of snap into position in alignment to strike or grab the prey. If it's small prey, he'll grab it. If it's big prey, he'll actually strike it or rake it with his talons to wound it so that it'll fall to the earth. So he has a lot of strategies to help him take things like large things like a duck. So that's how he does it. He can't carry a duck. He only weighs 1.5 pounds, and ducks can weigh like 4 pounds. So there's no way he can carry that much weight. So he has to have some way to get it to the ground. So it gets to the ground, and if by some miracle it has still survived the fall and the hit, he has to finish it off. And of course, birds of prey do that with their feet. Now, it's a little hard. I don't know if you've ever cut up a bird, if you've carved a turkey or a chicken for dinner, and you've probably noticed that across their chest, they actually have a solid bone. They have a breastplate, and it has kind of a keeled structure that their big chest muscles or their breasts attach to. So if you carve a turkey, you've probably noticed that keeled breast. Well, it's hard for birds of prey to get their talons through all that breast muscle and through that bone. So it's hard for them, actually, it's hard to grab and kill a bird from the top because it's tough to get to the vital organs like the heart and the lungs and things. So it's a little difficult for the peregrine, even though he has these big impressive feet and long sharp claws and talons, to help him do that. So in falcons, they do have a tool that other birds of prey don't have. And again, I'm going to bring him close. It's really warm today, so he's panting, just by the way, in case open, but I'm going to see if I can get him. There you go. I don't know if you can notice. See if he'll bite me, and you can see he has a little notch on his beak. And let me see if I can get him to rotate around again and bite me. There we go. There it is. I don't know if you saw that, but he's got that notch-shaped beak. And that notch is a really great tool for him, because what he can do with that notched beak is he can actually reach down, grab the bird by its neck, and use the edges of those notches to actually help him cut through the bird's spinal cord and kind of sever the neck. So it's a really great tool to help him kill that animal very quickly. He wants to kill, birds of prey want to kill their prey as fast as they can. One, because they could lose it. The animal could struggle and get away from them. Two, the animal could struggle and harm them. We have seen birds of prey come in missing talons, missing toes, and you know that the prey got the best of them. They actually probably got their toe bit off. I've seen a rabbit do it to a great horned owl. So animals do fight back, so they want to be able to kill things as quickly as they can. Plus, there's always somebody watching and wanting your dinner, so they want to do it as quick as they can, haul it off up to a perch or someplace safe to eat. If it's too big, they eat it as fast as they can on the ground. Some birds actually cache, like great horned owls are known to cache prey or hide their prey, come back, get more to take to the kids or bring the kids to feed. So it's kind of an interesting thing that they do. But once you get your food, you get to eat it and then feed your family and all those good things. So raptors use all these tools to help them do that. Now, this week at the Raptor Center, we've been seeing a lot of things going on, and some of the things happen to do with food sources for the birds of prey. We're noticing some things going on that has to do with, again, what they're eating and actually what's going on with the animal that they're eating. It's a severe drought here in southeastern Colorado, as it is in many parts of the country right now. We're having a horrible drought. Things are drying up. And one thing that we see when that starts to happen is water resources get very limited. You know, we're talking puddles, little tiny ponds, in dry creek beds. So there's not a lot there. So a lot of times birds are using the same, a lot of different birds are coming in and animals, and they're using the same little watering. And some diseases are passed through water. So one bird that's infected gets into a pool of water and he's drinking, and his, whatever it is, and his saliva gets left in the water, and then somebody else comes along very shortly after at the same time, and they can pick up some diseases. And the same thing actually can happen in our bird baths. A lot of people want to help out wildlife, and that's great, and they do that by just putting out water for animals. So it's really essential, if you're doing that, if you have a pond in your backyard, that you're really managing that water well. Bird baths should be cleaned at least once, if not twice a day, and that means emptying it, disinfecting it with a mild bleach solution, rinsing it, let it air dry, and then refill it, and dump it out again, so that all the birds, because a lot more birds are going to be attracted to that, because water resources, especially in the prairie areas and the mountain areas like where I live up in the mountains, our creeks are dry. So when you put out a bird bath, oh my gosh, everybody comes, including the local bear, to drink out of your bird bath. So keeping that clean is really essential. Hummingbird feeders are another thing. You want to change that hummingbird feeder every day, clean it, disinfect it, put it back up. Not just hummingbirds eat out of hummingbird feeders, orioles will. If you live in an area where there's bears, the bears will find the hummingbird feeders and they'll enjoy the nectar that you've created. So you want to keep things really clean. Same thing with your bird feeders. I know I don't feed songbirds, or I don't put seeds or anything out in the summer just because of bears. But in the winter months, I know I like to feed wildlife. I like to, or at least birds, because I enjoy watching them when I do get to spend some time at home. And it's important, same thing. You want to clean those feeders. You want to empty them out. You want to scrub them, let them air dry, rinse them thoroughly before you refill them, because they can pass diseases. And one of those things that we're seeing is actually a parasite. It's been really bad at our center. I haven't had a chance to talk to some of the other centers in the state dealing with birds of prey, but we're seeing a little parasite. It's a protozoa, and it's called Trichomonas, and there's different species of it. So birds have their own little species of trick that they get. That's what we call it, shorthanded. And it's a really nasty little parasite. And we've seen a lot of very extreme cases. And what it does is this parasite will kind of develop, it'll grow and form a colony or a little white mass in the esophagus and the mouth of the bird. And as the parasite thrives, that mass grows because the population and the colony is growing. And what happens is it'll grow, and there could be several spots of it, but as it grows, it actually closes off the esophagus of the bird so it can't drink or swallow food. So when we see them coming in, they're starving to death. But also that parasite, especially if it's in the mouth area, it's just horrific. It'll actually, as it grows, it'll actually grow up into their sinuses, and it actually just eats away the bone. It's horrible. We've never seen it so bad as this year, at least at our center. So really pay attention if you are putting out water for the animals. That's fine. I have no problem with that, but do keep it very, very clean to help these guys out, because he's getting it probably from, well, he doesn't have it, yay. His food is clean, but wild birds are getting it mostly, like Theo. We've seen it in great horned owls. We've seen it in ravens and crows. Red tails have been coming in with it. And those are usually birds that eat a lot of other birds. So a lot of those birds like doves and robins, all those kind of guys that they eat, they have it potentially, and these guys are getting it from eating other animals or by drinking contaminated water. So we want to be very careful with what we're putting out for wildlife so that we don't get anybody else sick. So that's really important. And same thing for us. You want clean, fresh water to drink. Well, so do they. They really need it too. So we want to help them all out. Other cases that we've seen this week, we had lots of babies come in. We have 2 Swainson's hawks. Their nest got blown out of the tree in the wind a few days ago. We searched around the area, could not find mom and dad. The landowners are listening to see if they can hear the parents calling for the chicks, but so far we haven't been able to reunite them. But they're doing great, and they're eating very well on their own. They don't really need much from us right now, so we're just providing them space and some really great food. And hopefully we'll get another maybe adult Swainson's hawk in that can hang out with them. So they're doing great. Yesterday, if you tuned in, we released a couple of American kestrel chicks. Actually, they weren't chicks anymore. They were fledglings and ready to roll. So they were great. We still have 3 more of those. That cute one, I don't know if you saw our Facebook page, that little female with the broken leg. She's doing great. She's actually moved in with the other 2 fledglings that we have, so she can start moving around a little bit. Her leg's still in the splint. She goes for an x-ray Tuesday or Wednesday. We have to talk to the vet and see if she's good to go and get that splint off her leg. So she's doing great. We also got in, actually kind of a horrific event. Some people came out, it came in the morning. I'm just going to set Theo over here. He's slapping me. He's just like, come on, Diana, let me go. We actually got in a kind of a really sad event. And if you're faint of heart and you have a big sensitive issue for injury to animals. You may want to look away for just a second, but I do want to show you what happened. This beautiful great horned owl in the night, what caused it? Obviously, he just miscalculated, but he ended up, I don't know if you can see this, with his head through the chain link fence. Isn't that horrible? The poor little guy. Here's another, I'll show you just another picture. Yeah, keep looking away if you're faint of heart. Oh my gosh. And the people were just horrified that that little owl came in that was stuck in their fence. They felt so bad and kind of guilty, which is really not their fault. Obviously the owl was chasing something, miscalculated, and just went right through that fence. So when they came in, he was really weak and down, having a lot of issues with head trauma, shock. He was very cold. We did everything we could supportively for him, put him on some meds for the head impact, and he looked a little bit better by the end of the day. The people actually, when they went out to rescue him, thought he was already dead. So they were really surprised when he started moving, when they touched him. But they managed to pull the wires enough that they could slide him out. But we weren't sure if he would make it. We were a little bit hopeful by the end of the day. He had perked up quite a bit, was perching, but his head was still kind of droopy in his eyes. Obviously he had head trauma. His pupils were just all over the place. So we were concerned. We went home. And I really thought in the morning when I came in, he'd be deceased, but he was looking good. He was perching. He looked a little brighter. So we were really hopeful that second day. But by the end of the day, we noticed that he was slowing down again, started to droop his head. And so we kind of expected in the morning, we may not find a pleasant situation. And surely that's exactly what happened. We came in and he had passed in the night. And I think it was just the combination of the head impact and just the trauma. I just can imagine that poor animal thrashing himself, trying to pull his head out of that fence. He tore up his feet. And it was just a sad, sad event. And I know the people that found him, all the neighbors, everybody pitched in to try to rescue him. So we feel bad we couldn't save him, but I think the trauma was just so extreme for him. So you just don't know what you're going to find in your yard sometime. And that was certainly sad. We were all sad because we were working so hard to get him to survive. But that's all we can do, is just do our best. Some things we can't fix. And the birds don't make it, and sometimes they do, like those little kestrels yesterday. That was so fun letting them go. They're so adorable, and we're happy to see them go back to the wild. But that's our job, to help out wildlife. I know sometimes wildlife officers will bring us birds, and we'll take a look at it and say, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do, we have to put it down. And they actually say, I'm sorry I bothered you with this. And I'm like, it is never a bother for you to bring us an injured animal, even if I have to euthanize it. It's okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you. And that means the public as well. We're here to help you with issues that you're having so you can help the animals too. That's really what we want to do. It's just to help and people to understand the birds and what they need and what they live. And Nate is agreeing with me. I don't know if you can hear him on the camera. He's in my eyesight and he's chatting with me right now. He's just like, yeah, we're here to help. That's our job. So we're so excited to be here. We're getting a little bit closer to opening. I think we are just so overwhelmed right now. So many birds coming in. We are working. I know I got a group here today. Boy Scout Troop 9 has been here all weekend. They're painting indoor enclosures for the birds. We're trying to repair some roofing and do some much needed repairs. Also deal, of course, with all the animals coming in. I think probably we're looking first part of August on a limited basis by appointments. We'll start to do some tours and bringing people back in. We're starting to slowly bring in more volunteers. So we just want to be safe. We want to be safe for the birds in our care, for our staff, and especially our volunteers. And mostly we want to be safe for the public to join us. I know in Colorado we're doing okay with the COVID issue, but in other states it's spiking. So we just want everyone to be happy and safe and do what's necessary to get through this pandemic as quickly as we can. So we appreciate your patience with us. I'll keep doing the best I can, being live with you on Facebook. If you ever have more questions, please shoot us a message on Facebook. The staff will let me know that I have a message I need to respond to. You can always email us or visit our website, which is hikeandlearn.org. shoot me a text, whatever you need to do. But we are here to help you, help the animals, and help yourself. Exactly. We want you to be safe and feel comfortable with wildlife. That's what it's all about. They need to share the planet with us as much as we need to share it with them. So it's great. So anyway, from here at the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center, we're so happy that you joined us today. And we want you just to stay safe, be well, wear your masks out in public. Keep practicing that social distancing. Obviously, in Colorado, it is working. And if you were in a position to help us out, we would appreciate it. Because we're not being able to do programs and raise the funds that we normally would, any gift that you can give us is great. If you are cleaning out the closets and you got some old sheets and towels, oh my gosh, we would love to get those at the Raptor Center. We use them, of course, in the hospital and areas like that to keep the birds comfortable and safe. So if you have questions, again, just call us. You can call the Raptor Center directly at 719-549-2327, and we're happy to answer your questions. So it's a gorgeous day. It's a little hot and humid in southeastern Colorado, but it's still really lovely. So get out and enjoy, and thank you so much for tuning in today. Be safe.